Somewhat recently I beat Hollow Knight and tracked how many times I died throughout the whole playthrough. Then Silksong came out and I thought it would be pretty interesting to do the same thing to get a general idea of how hard this game is compared to Hollow Knight. This video will only cover the first act, so no major spoilers, but you might see a naked Hornet. As I walk you through my Silksong playthrough, you should judge my gamer skills by the death counters on boss fights. At the end of the video I'll reveal which one of them was the hardest. I'll also reveal how many times I died, so you could try guessing that as well. Just like the Hollow Knight, I played Silksong without touching the wiki, but this time I streamed the whole thing, so I was getting some tips along the way. Just so you know. If you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. Now let's get to the first act of Silksong. Unlike the dark and gloomy Hollow Knight, the tutorial area of Silksong is very green. It also has this super funny creature hidden in the starting room, and it perfectly shows what this game is all about. Anyway, what stands out right off the bat? Hornet can now grab ledges, heal 3 masks with just one click, and does this awkward diagonal attack. Just watching this Moss Mother fight, you could probably guess how future Pogo sections will go. Still, I beat her on my first try, and right after that got hit with some sort of spider cancer. Luckily, this old lady helped and gave me a quest to seek the citadel. Hornet, say thanks to the old lady. After the tutorial comes the first half area. It's somewhat similar to Dirtmouth. Here I talked with some NPCs, like the bench guy. Whoa, calm down, Elderbug. The guy's just a fraud. He's not replacing you. Yeah, he does that sometimes. Then this suspicious hole caught my attention. I thought it would be very funny if it led to the start of the game, and yeah, it leads to the very beginning. How cool is that? Once I got back up, I met Chakra, bought the compass, and got my first wish from the druid. Druid asked me to bring her 3 moss berries, 2 of which I already found in the starting area. The third one turned out to be behind the secret wall, just above the druid, so I did this wish super fast. Druid cooked the berries, snorted them, and gave me the druid's eye. Just like Grabsong, it restores some silk when I take damage. Super useful charm. In the same area I found the grave of some Weaver. If you don't know, they're like Hornet's family. I find their graves, read some text, get flashbanged, and that's how Hornet unlocks new abilities. The first ability is Silk Spear, which is Hornet's iconic throw attack. Here it's a spell, but I also needed to free the Bell Beast, which starts its boss fight. The fight is similar to the Moss Charger. Bell Beast has the same charge and leap attacks, but she also throws bells around. It's mostly fine, but once she gets to her second phase, the whole arena gets filled with bouncing bells. By the way, all these attacks do 2 masks of damage. And Silksong seems to be a lot more liberal when it comes to choosing which enemies can do that. There were already a couple of them in the starting area, and a lot more to come. I wouldn't call Bell Beast a hard boss, but just the fact that I die so quickly got me 3 times before I beat her. As a reward I got the first Silk Heart. This thing also flashbanged me. Twice. And honestly, at the time I didn't understand what this heart does. It's a very specific upgrade that allows Hornet to passively regenerate 1 pip of silk, and each heart raises this cap up to 3. It's funny how this upgrade is so small, but it also has its own parkour section to make it feel more important. Now I can also travel between Bellway stations. After saving my first flea, I found Grindel, who kinda reminds me of Zod, let him out and got my first tool. But I wasn't ready to manage any extra buttons while fighting enemies, especially since my next enemy was this big guy. It's embarrassing, but I died a whole 9 times on him. He's not even a boss, but has an impressive moveset and everything does 2 masks of damage, because of course it does. After so many deaths, I eventually locked in and beat him without taking damage, unlocking the way to the Hunter's March. I think this area is designed to train pogo jumping, and it turned out to be a real test of my patience. All because I really couldn't get used to diagonal attacks. Tough enemies and traps just made it worse. The thing that worked for me was attacking when Hornet was closest to pogo flowers. That way I at least couldn't miss them. After about half an hour of pure torture, I reached an arena where Chakra helped me clear the enemies. But right after that I lost the fight with an ant and had to do the whole run back again. If that wasn't enough, this area's only bench also tried to kill me. twice. Yeah, not my brightest moment, but I quickly figured out how to fix it. And then talked to Gilly. At this point, I'm already 3 hours into the playthrough, and I don't even have a dash yet. Speaking of the dash, here it is a 2-in-1 ability, where dash turns into sprint if I hold it. I got so fixated on the sprint path that it took me a while to realize I also have a real dash, and not just a sprint. Needless to say, it's way better than dash spamming from Hollow Knight. It also has extra features like longer jumping and dash attacks. With that unlocked, I entered the Deep Docks. I actually like this fiery forge area. It looks cool, and the fact that Hornet can just walk on fire as long as she occasionally jumps is just funny. Here I found the Forge Daughter, a merchant that sells some super important stuff, like Sting Shard and Magma Bell. We already know, a lot of enemies do 2 masks of damage, but if it's fire damage, the Magma Bell reduces it to 1 mask, with a short cooldown, so this charm is super important. As for the Sting Shard, I tried it on the first lace fight, and I liked it quite a lot. It's so nice that I can just throw it, and it will probably do some damage, so I actually started using tools. Still, I died on my first attempt, which is embarrassing. Lace was so far the easiest boss. Just jumping around and attacking was enough to defeat her. It's crazy how easy this fight is, and how hard it becomes later. Defeating Lace opened the way to the far fields. And here I collected spine cores for this lady. This wish wasn't super obvious. Spine cores don't just drop. I actually had to smack the stuck pins first and only then pick them up. Reward is the Drifter's Clock. This thing allows Hornet to glide and also ride these wind streams. I already saw a bunch of them, so I had a choice where to go next. But first I had to defeat the 4th chorus. You actually walk right past this guy when you enter the far fields, and he's just lying there, menacingly. Someone told me that I can fight Chorus before getting the cloak by using Taunt. Recently I started a new game just to check, but unfortunately it's not true. Would have been funny though. So anyway, the fight is actually pretty epic and it has its own soundtrack, which adds to the experience. I also like how intuitive it is. I just knew I had to hit his head, then dropped a boulder as soon as I got the chance. Maybe it's a bit too easy, cause I beat it on my first try, but I still liked the fight a lot. From there I kept going up until I found a small rest area, where I found what I call the main villain of Silksong. A merchant who locked his shop behind an entrance fee. I paid for it twice, before breaking the cog, which will have its consequences, but let's be honest, he had it coming. Then again, I kept going higher, until I eventually popped out in Greymoor. This area is super grim. A nice change after all the colorful places we've been through. It kinda reminded me of the resting grounds, mostly because of the grave-like things in the background. But looking now, they are completely different. The style is more noir-like. Grey colors, rain, and they even have a bar with a gloomy bartender. The crow enemies are super annoying, and I had to go through another pogo hell. Still struggling with the diagonal attack. This time I also had to mix in dashes and gliding. It'll get better. Eventually. The time spent was definitely worth it, as I unlocked probably the best spell in the game, Thread Storm. It strikes around Hornet, so it's easier to hit multiple targets, and the damage is great. In fact, it's so good, it even got nerfed at some point. Still, all that doesn't matter, since I use this thing at worst possible moments. What actually does matter is that on this area I found the Reaper Crest. Damn, I definitely did not expect Silksong to have different movesets. That's a huge bonus to replayability, and I'm sure there are already mods that let you start the game with a different crest. Big fan of the idea. Reaper Crest is great for several reasons. It has a more traditional down slash, and the attacks themselves are bigger. It made me think that they do more damage, but no, just more knockback with a slower attack speed, so that's actually a downside. Most crests also change how healing works. For instance, Reaper gives a 10-second buff that lets me smack Silk out of enemies, which is great, so I'll use it for a while. And with my new abilities, I came back to Hunter Smash. What I found was another, very important merchant, hidden behind the secret wall. Apparently, putting him behind the wall wasn't enough. This guy also runs away when I try to attack him. I mean, it's reasonable, but none other merchant does this. as if the developers didn't want me to find him, probably because he sells the Fractured Mask. A charm that lets me take one extra hit before dying. No need to explain how strong it is, and I'm glad I bought it before I found the next boss, who is actually very close to this merchant. The Savage Beastfly is a big, scary version of the regular Beastfly, and I think many would agree it is a bit too savage for how early you can find it. What's worse is that I have this weird thing when I just can't leave a boss until I beat them. So coming back later was not an option. Remember how I did against that ant guy from earlier? Yeah, I think you can imagine how well this fight went. Of course, this thing does double damage, but the worst part is that it summons random enemies, and the less health the fly has, the more frequently it does that. Luckily, I quickly picked up that fly can kill its own summons with its slam attack. And since that attack targets me, I control where it lands. But I still struggled a lot with basic movement and kept bumping into the Beastfly. There is also this random cage trap on the way to boss, and I just kept getting caught. This fight also taught me that I can heal mid-air to avoid attacks, and honestly, it's one of the more important mechanics in Silksong. Glad I figured it out early. But even after learning the Beastfly's moveset, the fight still came down to pure luck. I had to pray the Beastfly would mostly summon these guys, as I can just ignore them, while the other two options are super annoying. Eventually I got lucky and defeated the Beastfly, which took me 14 deaths. Yeah, that's a lot. The reward is the Beast Crest, which may be a good crest. I really didn't like its moveset and awful charm slots. All that is supposed to be negated by a great bind skill, and I didn't bother to confirm if it's any good. So I am still using Creeper. After defeating the Beastfly, I found my fifth flea and traveled with the caravan to Greymoor. Apparently that skipped the morning fight, and there is no going back now. I can't fight it while the fleas are here, so I'll have to do it later. For now, I reached the Bellhart. This town will be our second hub zone, but right now it's kinda haunted. Ready for a did you know moment? If you sit on this bench now and re-enter the game, you'll find yourself hanging, just like the other residents. Now that's creepy and very cool. Now let's move on to the Shellwood. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this area. I always get lost here. The Grey Root quest was especially annoying. This definitely not suspicious creature asks for 6 polyp hearts without telling me where to find them. And man, do I hate running circles. One of them was particularly tedious to get, and one polyp even managed to kill me. And when I finally found all the hearts, I forgot where the Grey Root thing lives. Not fun, but the reward is great. A charm that makes tools poisonous. I used it quite a bit. While looking for polyps, I fought the sister. It went surprisingly well. I believe Team Cherry nerfed her summons to deal 1 mask instead of 2, so that definitely helped. Outside of that, she has a very basic moveset and can also kill her summons, just like Beastfly. So I died only once, beat the sister, and unlocked the Cling Grip. It's basically the Mantis Claw, except now Hornet can also climb walls. Neat, but I never used it. I think regular jumps give more control anyway. So far the Shellwood area was not super exciting, but the Widow boss fight definitely makes up for it. Widow being a weaver already makes her cool enough, but she also has a cool design. These 2 pins behind her may seem like weapons, but they're actually stuck inside her, so that she can produce silk. The way Widow shouts, combined with her cool soundtrack, really made me feel like I fight someone crazy. Needless to say, my first attempt didn't go well. I lasted about 10 seconds. Widow has a Grim Lunge, which wasn't a problem, because I fought Grim a lot. Goofy run attack where she summons spikes. Here I had to use Glide to not get hit. And most problematic were her bell attacks. They bounce around and it's hard to get used to. But then I figured out that I can just smack the bells instead of dodging, which made the fight a lot easier. By the way, very cool how Widow fakes her death. I definitely fell for it. After 6 deaths, I beat the Widow and let Hornet devour the thing, unlocking the Needle In. Same as Dreamnail, it's a plot ability, but now I play music instead of smacking things. It can open stuff, make NPCs sing, and a lot of other plot-related stuff. Killing Widow also freed the Bellhart, so now I can pick up new wishes and talk to some super important NPCs, like the Junk Collector and Pinmaster, who upgraded my needle for free. After that I got a bit sidetracked, did some wishes, explored the Wormways, and unlocked the Wanderer's Crest, which was surprisingly easy to get. It's just to the left of the starting area, guarded by a bunch of bumps. Basically, it's the same Knight moveset, with addition of random crits. The fact that this Crest also has faster attack speed, even faster than the default Crest, is very nice. And since I really didn't like the slow attacks of Reaper, I decided to use the Wanderer's Crest for the time being. Then, back in the starting area, using the Needling, I opened my first Weave Nest. Inside I fought the Moss Mother. Again, I hate when developers slap two bosses in one room and call it a day. Fortunately, the second mother joins the fight after a while, so I blitzed the first one, making this fight super easy. Still, I died 4 times before I pulled it off. Then I talked to Eva. I don't really understand what this thing is, but it upgraded my Hunter Crest. Again, did not expect would also get Crest upgrades. That's when I learned that the Hunter Crest has a passive ability. More damage if I fight without getting hit. Not my thing, but definitely a good ability. Eva also unlocks charm slots, but she doesn't explain when or why she does it. I thought it is based on the number of crests that I have, but it's actually tied to the amount of unlocked charm slots. Super confusing. Then I did some wishes and defeated the Skull Tyrant, very easy boss. And right when I wanted to make my way towards the blasted steps, my viewers told me to go back to the Farfields and look for a unique fly enemy. When I found that thing, I immediately got the reference and let them catch me, ultimately becoming a prisoner, which gets me to a way later area called the Slab. Just when I thought that crests were already a lot more than I expected, Team Cherry gives me a naked hornet, and she can even throw a punch. It doesn't really do damage, but it's hella funny. I tried fighting some bumps like that, it's not worth it. But then I got locked in a small arena where I could use traps instead of fighting. Very cool idea. I died on the last wave, but right at the end of my death animation, the last 2 enemies stepped on the pressure plates and off themselves, clearing the arena for me. That was stupid lucky. Then I explored the cold rooftop for a bit. And finally found my items. Yeah, this guy seems to be enjoying himself. Would be very funny if someone broke his neck right now. Am I right, Hornet? This game is fire, and the fact that I could have missed all that fun by never running into that fly is just cruel. So I got my items, and for now there was nothing left to do. After escaping the prison, I finally made my way to the blasted steps. A deserty, windy area that pairs nicely with the glide. If I catch a strong wind, it propels Hornet further. Cool design. Here I found Grindel's shop, can't get in yet, but then I found a perfect way to spend some time and money. Gambling! There is actually a trick to this game, but I didn't get it and won by pure luck. I thought that I had to shake the dice and wait for some sound. Apparently it's something else. Funny how Hornet mentions that I tricked him, when I clearly didn't. Yeah, you win when Lubble runs out of rosaries, and the reward is a very good dice charm. It has a chance to block damage, and each time it doesn't trigger, the chance gets bigger until it finally works, then it resets. I believe it also doubles the crit chance of Wanderer Crest, so it fits my build nicely. Also, I just like the sound it makes, super satisfying.
Nice.
After getting that OP charm, I went and also got myself a Plasmium syringe. Had to help this crazy guy collect some Plasmium, but it wasn't anything difficult. So now I can pump myself with Plasmium and block some damage with the dice charm. Trust, someone like me needs all the health he can get, especially since the next area is the Sinner's Road. By the way, on my way to the Sinner's Road, I found a unique flea named Kratt. I mean, you can tell he's up to no good, offering some spa services while calling Hornet Nectar Sweet, like she's got an Only Bugs account. Still, let's see what happens. I don't really blame the guy for taking a pic, but charging Hornet for it, that's weird. Anyway, the spa is useless, but this was a very funny interaction. Back to the Sinner's Road, this is where Silksong gets cruel. It's one of those swamp areas every Souls-like has to have. If I touch the water, I get butt maggots. They drain silk and block healing. To get rid of them, I either have to rest or somehow get enough silk to bind them off. Here's the funny part. After buying the nearest bench to hopefully get rid of them, it turned out to be broken. I had to fix it by completing a pretty hard parkour section. And when I died there, which I certainly did, I had to backtrack all the way from Greymoor. Even with Plasmium and Fractured Mask, I managed to die twice, so that was fun, but after that, Sinner's Road went surprisingly smoothly. I mean, just look at that. I can't believe I climbed that so easily. Up there I cleared the gauntlet, got the key and released the Green Prince. Then I found a secret wall, which led me to a secret mist area. I'll be honest, someone in chat told me about it, and I'm glad they did. This area is super unique. Lots of traps and scary ghost ladies. They have an annoying grab attack that drains silk and deals 2 masks. And whenever I kill them, they just respawn. Like I'm not supposed to do that. After running around this area, I got a feeling that I have to do something. First I tried playing Needling for the ladies. It wasn't going smoothly, but then I tried again and it actually made the butterflies move. That's how I figured out that I have to follow them. It wasn't easy. I had to do this 8 times in a row, and I can't play Needling and fight ghosts at the same time, so I had to be sneaky, which is not always an option, due to random ghost placement, and whenever I died again, I had to go through quite a long run back. Eventually I learned the best way to deal with unlucky rooms is to just leave them. Fortunately, it doesn't reset the progress, so it's not a big deal. After a couple attempts, I made my way through the mist and reached the exhaust organ. Here I fought the Phantom. A very badass boss with a badass design. Sadly, she's not that hard. The fight is somewhat similar to the first Lace fight, but a bit more difficult. Phantom does this throw attack a lot, which sometimes even predicts my movement. Still, dodging the pin throw is not that hard, but then Phantom also does a dash that overshoots the pin just a bit, and that's when I take contact damage. In the second phase, she starts using an area attack, which actually makes the fight easier. Similar to Chorus, despite not being difficult, this fight feels great, and I enjoyed it a lot. Also, the way this fight ends is just absolute cinema. Oh. Yeah, very epic. And the parry skill is a great reward. So that whole section was an alternate way to enter the second act. But I'm not that kind of person to skip content, so I went through the normal route as well. After beating the Phantom, I came back to the Marrow to figure out where to go next. That's when something weird happened. Yeah, Bum Tyrant's friend jump scared me. The fight wasn't any harder, but it was funny. He even broke the bench. Anyway, after that, I finally finished exploring the Blasted Steps. Quickly beat the conch flies, found the pinstress, and unlocked the Needle Strike. In Silksong, instead of multiple nail arts, you only get one, but its attack changes depending on the crest. So, with that unlocked, I reached the bell door and played some music for the pilgrims, starting the judge fight. This time I lasted about 6 seconds. Huge improvement over the Widow. If you're wondering about the runback, I actually died on it before even reaching the boss. And this time I almost died and started the fight with no health. Yeah, that didn't end well. However, I quickly got used to it. This runback is not that bad, especially compared to some stuff that we'll see in Act 2. Back to the judge, her fight isn't so bad either. Yeah, I went down fast in my first 2 attempts, but that's because her moveset is rather oppressive. Third attempt went better. I started dashing under her jump attack and kept my distance. Then she hit the second phase. Same moves, but now with fire and explosions. Needless to say, I didn't know what to expect, and again, died very quickly. That's when someone suggested equipping the Magma Bell. It made the second phase a bit easier, making all these fire shenanigans do less damage. I had already learned how to dodge them, so I didn't get hit much, but the bell still saved me some HP, which came in clutch at the end of the fight. I believe if I died here, I probably would have had to fight the judge again, but thanks to the Fractured Mask and Magma Bell, the crisis was avoided, and this fight only took me 3 deaths. So that was my first act of Silksong, and it took me 74 deaths. Compared to Hollow Knight, by the time I beat the first Dreamer, I only had 45 deaths, so Silksong is already taking almost twice as many. Will that gap keep growing in Act 2? That's another story. So far, the most difficult boss was the Beastfly, but that's based on my death counter. 14 deaths is a lot. If you really think about it, the thing has a very basic moveset, and the hardest part is to mask damage and random summons. If I'm judging by actual difficulty, I'd say the hardest boss was the Widow. She has a great variety of attacks, and they are not that easily countered. I feel like I actually struggled with the boss, and not some random nonsense. Anyway, let me know which boss in the first act gave you the most trouble. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to press that like button and subscribe to my channel. That would really help. That's all, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.